And we're live. Gentlemen, how are we going in the chat this evening? I hope everyone is doing well. So far we've got Dingo Dave, Pratty, Dan Corman, Robert, and Ross Dingle. How you going, guys? Thanks for joining me tonight. And it's been a bloody big week, but the aim of tonight's live stream is to try and figure out why in the world there's these fish that we've just never kept, and some that we just know we're not going to, and then there's that other one that is just always in the back of your mind thinking, I probably should do that one day. I probably should do that one day. So that's the aim of tonight's live stream. Hopefully you're going to tell me what fish you've never kept, and we're going to try and convince each other that for some reason these fish are worth keeping. Now we've got a few drinkers on the stream tonight, so cheers everybody. Hope you're having a nice evening. Because some of the guys that are in the chat have asked me questions already. How you going, Matt? I guess I'll answer those questions straight away because Pratty and Robert have both asked me questions already, so I'll address those now. G'day, Jeremy. Bloody midnight over there, mate. Cheers. Hope you're having a good evening. Robert Tonks from Brisbane. Robert, you asked me if I have visitors down this way. I absolutely do have visitors down this way, mate. And if you are coming down to New South Wales and you wish to call by, you can contact me on my email or phone number, which is in my YouTube channel description. And yeah, we'll tee something up for sure. Hey, Gab, how you going? Cheers, Gab. Next question we had from Pratty. Pratty, you had a question there about collecting. You had a big question, man. You had a big question there about collecting certain fish and the best time of year to collect fish or tropical species. The second part of that question is really easy. The best time of year to collect tropical species is when the water warms up, funnily enough. East Australia current might be different in different parts of the world. I'm sure it's different on the western coast of Australia and also in parts of North America. But the East Australia current comes from north to south. It draws the warm waters closer to the coast from about, I'd say, Christmas time, but you can get it happening a little bit earlier, about November. And it goes through until about end of March. And that's, of course, when you see our coastal waters hitting around about 24 to 25, 26 degrees Celsius. And that's the best time to collect the tropical fish because that current has brought down them as tiny little juveniles, tiny little larvae, and they usually get deposited in the rock pools and the estuaries and whatnot, and they transform, they get some color, we can see them, and then we know what we're trying to collect. The best methods for collecting these fish, no worries, Robert. Happy for you to come down anytime, mate. The best methods, it really depends on the kind of fish you're trying to target, and that just takes experience. Obviously, you've got two nets and snorkels and fins usually, and you pretty quickly realize there are certain fish that want to outrun you or outswim you, and they just don't stop. Wrasse are a great example at that. Adult butterfly fish, surgeon fish, some surgeon fish or most surgeon fish. So you pretty much start to realize there are certain fish that you can't collect that way. I usually try and scare a fish under a rock, so to speak, so I can use that drape net. Or I'll go out at nighttime with a head torch and I'll explore the rock pools and the foreshores, the rocky areas with a head torch and a long dip net. And I'll also go into the rock pools. I've also got fishing rod and fishing line for catching things like snappers and gropers and things like that. And wrasse, if you're looking for wrasse. So it's a really hard question. And I'm thinking, Pratty, that what I might do is do a video series, a collecting series where how to collect wrasse, how to collect butterfly fish, how to collect angelfish, that kind of a thing, and put them out one by one. If you've got a specific fish you try and target, just ask me and I'll give you my experience if that helps. Speed Data asks if I sell banana leaves for aquariums because he's heard I've got some bananas on the farm. I don't sell banana leaves at all. I don't really sell, well, I do sell plant product, but I sell to the flower markets in Sydney and Melbourne. Banana leaves, banana stalks, I got stacks. If you are somewhere in New South Wales or passing through, I'm happy to give you a van load. But yeah, don't sell. Heron Aquatics, Steve. Is Steve in the chat? I don't think like Steve is. Flowers with Horns, how you going, mate? Henry Shepherd, how are you guys? Let me know where you're joining us from and what you're drinking tonight. Anyway, Steve asks one last question. What happens come wintertime to the tropical fish that make it down to my coastline as larvae? And they make it down during the summertime, but what happens during the winter? Steve, that depends upon the species. So there are tropical fish and then there are tropical fish. So certain tropical fish, let's use a really classic butterfly for an example, would be a threadfin. They can be found as adults all the way down to Sydney and possibly even further down. So little juveniles of those, although in wintertime I don't see them when I'm in my usual collecting grounds, could quite possibly grow up larger and swim out and go out to various ocean reefs and things. But most of the tropical fish that you be seeing in my videos die. And they either die for one or two reasons. Number one, like most years, it just gets too cold for them. The small ones that are found on the ocean reefs, the headlands, we get lots of winter swells, the rough ocean waves, the water temperature dips down, their metabolism slowed down, their immunity's down, and they just get pounded. They die. The ones in the marinas, the ones in the estuaries and the river mouths, the water temperature just gets too cold. So, like for example, the Watana Bay angelfish that I collected, for example, or the keyhole or the coral beauty, they die. They die. And then there are years such as last year, where at the end of February, I think it was, we had cyclone up at Brizzy and a lot of rain down this way, and my entire river flooded, turned chocolate. I got a water sample down low. The whole thing was fresh water. It was 1.002 specific gravity. Everything died, including the brim, the flathead, everything died. So pretty much, although I'm not going to say I'm saving the lives of the fish, certainly in most of the collecting grounds I go to, the fish aren't there during wintertime. It's a very silvery environment, let's put it that way. And that's the reason why I usually go and do a lot of freshwater stuff in wintertime. Great, guys. So that's all the questions from last week. Who have we got here? Flowers with Horns. It's 10:10 p.m. Must be Saturday night. What time is it where everyone else is at? Mate, it's 7 p.m. or just after 7 o'clock on Sunday evening here. Henry's got a beautiful glass of cold water. Mate, I've got some cold water here because I had a massive weekend. Dan's from Oberon. Jessica Haggerty, just enjoying an ice cream. It is bloody hot. Jessica, where are you joining us from? Because it's been a stinker this weekend here. Fill you guys in with a few little activities I've had during the week. I've had a few questions about what's going on in the fish room with my Palau Reef and my plunge wave device. She's up and running, baby. She's up and running, and I'm just playing with a little bit of bracing because there's a bit of rocking of the bracket and whatnot, but the effect is fantastic. There's a little bit of noise that goes with it. I'm probably not going to fine-tune the noise and all the rest of it for the video I'm about to put out because I feel like that is part of the education. But long-term, I'll probably put some baffles around or something like that. It's not too bad, but she's up and running. So there's a video coming out pretty soon about that. I also did a mad dash to Brisbane yesterday to visit Gallery Aquatica, their new store at Tilngalpa. And Anya had some beautiful little fish which I'm pleased to say I brought back after the up and back 9-hour drive for my Peninsula macroalgae iwagumi. Now, if some of you guys are freshwater, I'm assuming you guys are freshwater. Well, hang on. You probably be both. But in case, so that's the book. Takashi Amano, Nature Aquarium Complete Works. Let's face it. He was a master back in his day. But the iwagumi, I always thought that iwagumis were kind of like beautiful, absolutely beautiful, but a little bit silly in freshwater, because I felt like when I read and I saw the footage and the text from Takashi Amano and ADA about how they were inspired by mountain ranges and coastal rocks and the way the rocks were worn and weathered, and so they put it into an underwater environment in a freshwater tank, that didn't make sense to me. And the little fish go swimming around the mountains like they're birds or seagulls. But I can't deny that the effect is absolutely beautiful. And so what I wanted to do is to set up a saltwater aquarium with this kind of aesthetic, but use macroalgae for the carpeting plants. So these carpeting plants here are Richia and Glossostigma. We've got some dwarf chain Amazon swords, and we've got some hairgrass in the back. I'm pointing the wrong way because of the camera, the back. I want to replicate the carpeting and also those nestling plants around the rocks with macroalgae. And I finally feel like I've cracked its growth and it's looking great. And it was a fantastic opportunity to go up to Brizzy and pick up those fish, and they're doing really well too. So there's another video coming out soon. And the whole idea of that is just to try and break down the separation that exists between saltwater and freshwater, because I don't get it. Fish underwater environments are amazing no matter how much salt is in them. And I just feel like for freshwater keepers that might be a little bit salt curious, doing something like that in saltwater could be really cool. And for saltwater keepers that need a little bit of an artistic nudge, that's for them as well. So stay tuned on that one. And then today, I went underwater. I went underwater down in the old river, and I made a decision with what to do with my growing quite large fish in the seaway. Yeah, cheers. Sometimes I talk so much I get a little bit out of breath. Cheers. I made a decision what to do with those big fish in the seaway tank, the mangrove jack, the snapper, and the big surgeon fish. You know, they're all hitting 45 centimeters. They're going to hit 50, 55, 2 foot. And that is to move those fish and that display into my outdoor turtle tank. But that also means I can get some other fish species that I've seen down my local river that I've been ignoring because of their size. And so I was there today, and stay tuned to the next couple of days for a video on that one. Right. Let's get started on the main event, guys. What I want, guys and girls, if Gab's there still and Jessica's still there, Tony's up there. Jessica's in Sydney, so she might still be there. In the Hills District, I used to work out there doing gardening a long time ago, but it was very different back then. Flowers with horn, salt and fresh. Can you put wood in salt? Mate, of course you can put wood in salt. I did a video on that, by the way. What was my now Saratoga tank was an estuary tank, and I had some Banksia and some different types of driftwood that came arching down like the tree had fallen from the sandbank down into the water, and the fish, it was fantastic. It was one of my favorite tanks, funnily enough. The only reason I broke it down was really because of the Saratoga. And I did some tests to see if the tannic acid that came out of the timber, because, you know, you do get a little bit of that kind of staining, would affect the hardness, the alkalinity level and the pH of the water. and it didn't. It didn't. At least, well, that was a large volume. Let's face it, was 2,000 litres, but it didn't. And I wasn't dosing. I wasn't dosing because there was no coral in that tank. So you certainly can use driftwood in a saltwater aquarium. You might need to use some carbon if that's not your look, that kind of yellowish look. Just keep an eye on the alkalinity as well. But in my experience, it wasn't really an issue because there was so much carbonate buffer in the water as it was. Robert Thomas was at Tingalp opening as well. It's a great shop. I wasn't there in the opening, mate, but I was there. Well, I think it's been open about 8 days. I was there yesterday. It is a great shop. Early days yet. Jeremy's going to pick up a nice tiger pige angelfish. Mate, I haven't had any experience keeping hybrid angels, although when I was in Vanuatu, what I noticed that the lemon peel cross half black or pearl scale, which is Centropide verlicii, was really common over there. And they would hang out with the lemon peel in little trios or groups. There was no prejudice from either the half black or from the lemon peel with the hybrids. And I always thought that would make a really cool little display in an aquarium, is to have a little trio set up like that. But I think the tiger pyge is with an eboli, isn't it? Lemon peel cross eboli, which is more of an in the ocean fish, I think. Righto, guys. Now, this is where I want everyone here to join me with their thoughts. There are always fish in the hobby that we've never kept. Some because we just don't like them. Some we might have a little prejudice against. Some that we thought, well, maybe one day. And I know for me, there's one that I always ask questions about with other people. And so I'm very curious about this fish, but I've never got around to keeping it myself. So I'm gonna start up, and I want you guys to put into the chat if I miss your fish. Praddy's already started. He wouldn't keep a batfish. Wait for it. I want you to tell me what fish you've never kept and 100% definitely never will, and why. All right, so Praddy, that's just for the first one. The next one's going to be which fish you've never kept but could be convinced to do so. And what I want to know is why, because we can be a bit prejudiced sometimes, and there's a lot of experience in this chat, and there's a possibility that maybe you're overlooking a few things. So we've got batfish and we've got a boggle-eye goldfish, but why? Why aren't you going to keep these fish, guys? So Praddy's example of a batfish, beautiful fish, mate. The fish species, don't forget that why. Tell me why, gentlemen. The fish species that I have never kept, or group I should say, and definitely will not, are Malawi cichlids. There is a big reason for it. And that is, and it's not just because I don't like them. I don't really like them. I know people are mad about them, but I just don't get that. But the big reason why I've never kept Malawi cichlids is because my freshwater supply everywhere I've lived, because it's been rural, has always been really soft to water. When I say soft, I mean lacking in minerals completely. So previously, a long time ago, I did keep Tanganyikan cichlids, and I was keeping them using a freshwater source that was rainwater. And it finally occurred to me, after doing water changes and adding buffer to buckets and all sorts of stuff, that what I really should be doing with rainwater was keeping discus, angelfish, and tetras, or doing blackwater biotopes. And my current shed environment, I use my bore water. And that sounds like, for many people, that a bore would be alkaline. Like in many parts of the world, there's obviously limestone or old coral reefs. What comes to mind is parts of southern USA, for example. and the water comes out like hard as rock. But not for me. I have 0 calcium, 0 magnesium, and 0 carbonates in my bore water. And there is also carbon dioxide that comes out of my bore water, or just lack of oxygen, so to speak. You know, you put the hose in the tap and you can see little bubbles. So I certainly do not want to be mixing up big IBC 1,000-litre tanks or something like that and putting buffer in there and using that as a storage. This is what people do for salt water. And I've said it before, if I couldn't go and pump ocean salt water and just dump it straight in my tank, I wouldn't keep salt water. It's just too much. Oh, maybe a little nano tank or something like that, but not big tanks, that's for sure. So that's my reason. And also, they don't appeal to me. Does anybody else here like Malawi cichlids? I know they're really popular, but I don't know. They just don't appeal to me. But the water chemistry, and there's a lesson in that, is that test your freshwater source first. Know what you're dealing with. If you're neutral, then that's pretty cool. You can go either way. But if you're ridiculously soft like me, make it work for you. And that's probably the reason why when I moved to this house here and I had a black water tank with some of those Manakapuru red forehead scalar angelfish, they were breeding like crazy. Right, let's not get too far down the track. So flowers with horns. Before I forget, mate, the fertilizer I'm using is Liverpool Creek Aquarium. I'm using the nitrate phosphate free, so 0, trace elements shrimp safe, as well as potassium, as well as Lugol's iodine, as well as extra iron EDDHA, which I bought from a fertilizer store. But generally, Liverpool Creek Aquarium, shrimp safe, trace elements, and potassium and iodine. Robert Tonks, a Moorish idol. I've never heard of anybody keeping one for more than a year. Yeah, and funnily enough, Robert, those fish almost have had a bit of a resurgence because of some YouTubers in America. What's the dude that used to do BRS? Ryan from BRS with his new channel, and the other fellow, the offside of the fish guy that he had with him, and they were doing these fish talks and whatnot. And Elliot from Marine Collectors, he was saying how they just need fiber. Well, of course they just need fiber, but sometimes they just don't want to eat nori. They want to eat sponge and they want to eat tunicates and things. In saying that, a Moorish idol is one of the fish I've been thinking about maybe putting into my macro algae display, because I feel like I could feed it tunicates and conjovoy and things without being bothered by other fish. But I agree with what you're saying there. Hefty Reef says butterflies because I would rather not have corals picked at, mate. I honestly believe that butterfly fish are massively underrated. And I've got 13 butterfly fishing with my corals, and they're not little. And although a few of them picked at a few coral to start with, no LPS. Oh, except for Duncan. I got some Duncan. They don't pick coral. I mean, they might go past occasionally and pick at the occasional polyp, but they don't sit there annihilating. Oh, I tell a lie. They do pick zoanthids. They'll kill zoanthids and eat them. They'll eat xenia. They'll eat any of that kind of Suspicularia, clove polyps. They'll annihilate anemones. I haven't got any Aptasia, that's for sure. I actually feed Aptasia to the tank, which I grow in my sump on PVC rings. And they will eat cookies and cream soft coral, Cladiella. But I need to do a video on that because I'm having some fantastic success. And funny enough, the safest, in my opinion, is the threadfin butterfly. And the least safe, in my experience so far, is the Klein's or sunburst butterfly, which is one that a lot of people say is great or potential as an alternative to the copperband butterfly. Hit me up if you want more information on my experience with butterflies. Dan wouldn't keep a boggle-eyed goldfish, but I know they're a bit much, mate. But Flowers with horns, I will never keep annual killifish. They lived so short. Has anybody else in the chat had annual killifish? I got a feeling. I was listening to a podcast. It was an aquarium watercolors aquarium gallery podcast from the Great Lakes area of North America. Where's that? Minneapolis, Michigan. Great Lakes, the Lakes District. Anyway, someone there might know. And they were saying that some of those annual killifish can live up to 5 years if they're fed a lot, and they're not so much annual in captivity. That's the Nothobranchia species, the African ones, I think. I've never kept killifish before. Does anybody else have killifish out there? Michigan. Thanks, Pratty. Michigan. Pratty, I wouldn't keep it. That's the batfish. Because you see them in the wild. They need groups. They do need groups and a huge aquarium. Yeah. That's a fair call, mate. And I do feel like even like I consider let's say that tank I'm about to put these big fish into, which is 3.6 meters by 1.2 by 1 meter deep. That's a big tank. It's 4,000 liters, 1,000 gallons. But hey, Quade, how you going, buddy? But putting a group of salad bowl-sized batfish in that tank would be, I mean, they can live, but yeah, I hear what you're saying, mate. Sometimes it's about the display as well and things looking to scale. Jessica from the hills, wouldn't keep silver dollars or a clown loach or bala shark because they grow huge. Jessica, can you tell me what sort of aquarium you've got at home at the moment? I've never kept either of or any of those species. I do have an idea for a display with silver dollars because I think they'd be fantastic in a hardscape only. Think Jeff Sensky from Aquarium Design Group. Lots of branch and driftwood so the silver dollars can go through it, and teaming them up with some of those tetras that get a little bit large, like the bleeding heart tetras, because I think their body shape would match the silver dollars. I think that'd be amazing. And clown loaches, they're so slow growing though. I believe they are slow growing. Let me know what sort of tank you got. Hey, John, you got the Coopers, you got the pale ale out there, mate. Jessica's got 6 tanks. The biggest is a 4 foot, then a 3 foot, and it's smaller from there. Yeah, so a 4 foot tank for a big group of silver dollars or a big school. Geez, a school of clown loach, that would cost a fortune, wouldn't it? Did anyone see the big tank that Corey from Aquarium Co-op did? That was like a big peninsula tank, and he had stacks of silver dollars. No, stacks, not silver dollars. Stacks of clown loaches, and then teamed it up with massive amounts of tiger barbs. And then I think he had some clouded arches up the top, and it looked absolutely amazing. But I can only imagine the amount of money in those clown loaches, and they were big too. They were huge. Here we go. Hang on. I'm losing track here. Ross Dingle wouldn't keep a Chinese algae eater. They suck the slime off other fish. That is an absolute fair call, mate. Fair call. And that's a very good point. You wouldn't want to keep a fish, but it doesn't have to be something like a Chinese algae eater. Obviously, any fish that doesn't suit your current setup, if you're limited with the number of tanks that you've got, is a fish that you probably shouldn't keep. Good call. Flowers with Horns wants a mini snakehead, a channa, but can't get them there. I believe they're illegal here too, mate. The next best thing would be some wild species betters, I'd say. Jeremy, why wouldn't you keep damsel fish, mate? Damsels are brilliant. There's so many different sorts of damsels. They are massively underrated. And my experience is if you give them enough space, they'll pair. Yes, they can whittle themselves down to just that pair, but let's face it, so do things like freshwater angelfish do that, don't they? So let's not be prejudiced for damsels because of that. But a group of things like the little Parasema Chrysiptera. I've had groups of blue devils. I had 9 females. You can tell them because they're straight blue, and the males were the orange tail. And they were in a community reef tank, and they were fantastic. A little pair of humbugs, beautiful if you've got the tank size, I guess. That's the catch. In my experience, okay, Jeremy, I'm going to give you a little task, mate. Have a look at, not Talbot's, Allen's. Have a look at Allen's damsel. They're really pretty. They're very metallic. They're very community-minded. They will pair up and spawn in little nests in the sand and the substrate, or that little kind of crater effect. Look up Allen's damselfish. Tan's Aquariums. I'm with you, Dan Designer Goldfish. Too genetically deformed for fish health. Regret getting a few guppies. Fish I possibly would keep when I get salty as seahorses. Difficulty though. Yeah. Designer Goldfish. I'm with you when it comes to fish like the ranchus, the lionheads, and those big bubble eye ones. That's just a little bit too grotesque. But I must admit, man, there's a fascination when it comes to, for me, when it comes to oranda, and also black moors. But I think that comes from my childhood. So I have kept them, and I will keep them again. Yeah. Flowers of horns. Yeah, I've kept idols. They are hard to get to eat. 6 of them and no more. Moorish idols. Gotcha. Had 6, all died. Henry Shepherd asks, which rays and sharks have you kept and what wouldn't you keep? Henry, you're asking in regards to which rays and sharks I've kept and which I haven't specifically. Yeah. Funnily enough, I've never kept the common stingray that you would find in a reef store, which is the blue spot stingray. Not because I haven't wanted to, but at the time I didn't have a tank that was suitable. The stingrays I have kept have been temperate ones. Usually the little round, hang on one sec. I'm just going to open this door to get some air through. Hang on. I'm starting to get as hot as a beetroot in here, and I'm looking pretty red too. Common stingery. They're only little, about 1 foot long, and which is perfect size for an aquarium stingray. But the downside to them is that they don't have much in the way of patterning. They're more of a beige color. The best stingray I have ever kept, which unfortunately jumped out and died on the ground, is a banjo shark or a banjo ray. Some people call them fiddler rays, and they're amazing. They're absolutely amazing. They've got that kind of shark back end and a round, flat stingray front end with a beautiful patterning. They're so friendly. You come up and eat from your hands. They're brilliant. Shark-wise, the only shark I have kept and is now at my mate's place is the epaulet. So no other sharks. Okay. Quade, how you going, mate? He's not ever going to keep a copper band butterfly fish, but because when he got them shipped to South Africa, they were so stressed, really got them to eat, and so they would die. And I think that's a common problem with copper band butterflies all across the world, and even in Australia, to be honest with you, where we just get them from the Queensland coast. The problem is butterflies do not tolerate not eating. They just don't tolerate it. They can't they've got no fat reserves. They have to eat every day. They have to eat meaty, chunky foods like mussels and cockles and clams and things. And They just can't tolerate being starved. Yeah. Africa. I'm pretty sure there's some copper band lookalikes that live on the coast of South Africa, Quade. But now you're in Queensland, you can go and collect your own. Daniel has Norman lamp eyes. They breed pretty well, look great in a school. Norman's lamp eyes. But which are the ones that you wouldn't keep? Robert Tonks, mate, I make my own activated charcoal. I'll bring you some to try. My tank is looking so good. This coal-based charcoal, my parents stable water looks so crispy and clear. Mate, sounds fantastic. I've never thought about making my own activated carbon. Tell a lie, I have once, but I was investigating how to make biochar for agriculture purposes. Sounds good, mate. Hit me up. Absolutely. Tans aquariums, mate. 9 clown loaches and 2 bowls in an 8-foot tank. You might be able to give Jessica a little bit of a rundown as to why she should keep those guys. I think it'd be pretty awesome to have a big tank with some big bala sharks swimming around. Even though they're silver, there's still something pretty cool about them. Oh, yeah, Quade. Quade would not keep and won't ever keep a 6-line wrasse, as they anger management problems and are possessed. Cheers to that, mate. And I think probably most of the time people that get them have them when they're very young, and then they mature and they become a bit like my teenage son, and they just crack the shits. Jeremy, you've already been checking out the Allens. Maybe I just had a bad experience with them previous. My domino damsel pair nipped my baby gem tongue, immediately caught it quits for down. Oh, yeah, Jeremy, but you started with the most aggressive and large growing damsel that you can get, which is the domino damsel. So I was given a pair of domino damsels from my mate who had them in a 6-foot tank. He collected them at that river that we go to down in Embucker as tiny babies, because there was a pair living under a log, believe it or not, and they had a clutch, a brood, I don't know what you want to call it, and he caught 2 babies. This was last year before the floods, and now they got up to about the 5 to 6 centimeter mark in his 6-foot tank, and they've paired off, boy and girl, and they start to battle it out with other fish. It's territory size. So their adults maintained a territory the size of a log, which was about 5 meters long. And obviously not all damselfish have that size territory. You might have a pair of humbugs whose territory is an acropora head, or you might have those Allens whose territory is the sandy flat. So they don't all have that massive territory, but you just happen to start with possibly the most dynamic, we'll call it. Anyway, they're in my 8-foot Seaway tank now, my 8x4, and there's just fish in there that would mess with them if they were to become too much of a problem. So they're being very well behaved. Yeah, mate, check out those Allens. Check out Allens. Don't be scared of blue devils. They maintain their color really well, and they're not like the namesake. And just make sure you don't have 2 boys. Orange tails are the boys. Talbots are great. And if you like a white spectrum, check out the Fusilier damsel, or also known as a purple chromis. Ginger, okay, Quade, double dash, Marley eye, that's it, Marley eye. They look very similar. They do, don't they, mate? They've got that kind of, those brown kind of vertical bands on them. Shalisha Guppies Australia, just finishing work. Mate, what is a fish that you've never kept and never will? So mine were Malawi cichlids, because quite frankly, I don't like them. And I also I have very, very, very soft freshwater, and I can't be asked buffering my water supply before I do water changes on freshwater tanks. So I stick to fish that need, or not need, but enjoy soft water. So that'd be cool. Let us know what they're. John, finally got my dream fish after years of waiting. Yes, you did get your archer fish, mate. I'm about to pull my archer fish out of Palau Reef and reconvert them back to freshwater because I feel like they're not enjoying the water movement that's in Palau Reef. John, what is a fish that you've never kept and never will? Right, so the next part of this question is, and this is where I'm interested to find your experiences, because everyone that tells me, everyone I ask this question to says that I definitely should do it. The fish that I've never kept, but could be convinced, and I'm pretty curious, and every time I see it in a aquarium store, I go, oh, I might do that. I might do one as a pet. I might do one as a biotope because I never see that happening. It'd be cool to see some mouth brooding behavior because I've never had, till I've had geophagus a long time ago, but other than that, I've never kept mouth brooding fish, cichlids, betters, that kind of thing. Raven, how you going, buddy? Raven, we're talking about what fish you have never kept and have never kept but possibly could. And the one that I've never kept but possibly could is Oscars. I guess the reason why I've never kept them is because I listen to a lot of podcasts because I'm by myself all day. But I hear everyone, especially in America, talking about what fantastic pets they are. And that makes me curious because they've got the big googly eyes and the big mouth and that kind of look about them. But the reason, Praddy, don't be laughing at me, mate. The reason I've never kept Oscars is because I jumped into I hate to say the way predatory saltwater fish, because I think every acromis is a predator, let's face it. But I've kept triggerfish. I've kept saltwater pufferfish. And I've kept certain saltwater filefish or leather jackets. And I think to myself, how much better can an Oscar be compared to a great big stars and stripes pufferfish just coming up and wanting to have his forehead scratched and eat from your hand and all the rest of it? I mean, let's face it, most of the time they're trying to beg for food and be fed, but I've experienced that with saltwater fish. And so that's the reason why I've never really jumped into keeping Oscars, because I figured, well, they can't be as good as pufferfish, can they? Can they? Oscars were Matt's first fish. John's had tiger Oscars. Gabby's had a best. Oh, no. I thought you were going to tell me just then that the best pet fish were Oscars, but I'm guessing it's Queensland. Oh, lungfish. I've got a story for you. I've been offered the lungfish. Showish guppies, 10-footer with 3 water puppies. So what is it, guys? What is it about them that is so different? And are they different to the puffers and things that I've experienced? I'd be really curious, because most of the time I see Oscars, they're kept in that very kind of sterile pet fish tank, like that large Central American or South American cichlid tank. Very American. Sorry, we do have some Americans there. I don't mean to be prejudiced there, but I know they're so popular over there, and so are cichlids, and it tends to be that gravel, a bit of driftwood, rudder. I haven't looked deeply, I must admit, but I haven't come across any tanks that have shown Oscars to be kept in a biotope environment, allowed to pair up, allowed to raise their babies, because I believe they raise their babies until they're about 10 centimeters or something, and they do that for such a long time. So that's kind of kind of on my mind there. Let me just see if anyone in the chat down here can make me change my mind about Oscars. Gabs. Okay. We're going to get back to that lungfish in a sec. Stars and stripes will be better. Okay. Bumblebee groper, the next best thing. So bumblebee groper, I'm assuming you're basically meaning a juvenile Queensland groper. I was chasing gropers today. Ross Dingle likes his Oscars. Recently got a couple again years ago. So very similar to a puffer. Okay, very interactive. So, all right. Well, give me rapid fire. Should I set up a take for them? A pair? I don't like the long fins. I don't like the albinos. I like straight kind of old wild form. Should I do it, or am I better off sticking to other displays? Let me know down below. And also, let me know what is a fish species that you have never kept, but probably or possibly will. It might just need a bit of convincing. Now, Quade, I know we're talking fish, but what invertebrates coral you wouldn't keep? Okay. Dan, biotope. Thanks, mate. Roomies, interactive. Yeah. Mate, I've heard reports of them even playing like fetch. People having a little ping pong and they throw the ping pong ball and it swims out and grabs a ping pong and brings it back, that kind of thing. I've never experienced anything like that with saltwater fish. In fact, my pufferfish would probably just try and eat the ping pong ball. Looks like my daughter and future daughter-in-law are watching. Hello, girls. Cheers. And show us your guppies. Do it, mate. Dead set. Love me, Oscars. Like a friendly flower. Except it hasn't got a cock. And my wife, when she heard that, cock, K-O-K. Not the other way around. Gabs, lungfish. Yeah, I've been assigned a juvenile lungfish if I wish to have it from another batch that was captive bred on paperwork with a certificate. But to be honest with you, I don't know where I'd put it because obviously I got that big Saratoga tank. Look, I went up and visited Lawson up in Caboolture. He has a couple of lungfish up there, and at the stage, his ones are probably, well, you can't see my hands because they're wider than the monitor and the computer. They're a good sort of 1/2 meter, and they were in his inside 10 foot by 3 foot by 3 foot tank, I think, something like that. And they were kind of just hanging around, and then they'd come up, and it was almost like watching a cross between an axolotl and a epaulet shark and a Saratoga and a fish. It was just all these things mixed together, and they got their doopy kind of fins that do this, and the black and then the white. They look really cool, really cool. And they're doing great for Lawson up there. And I came back from that thinking they're awesome. And then when I got that call this week saying if you want a Saratoga, if you want a lungfish on papers, there's no one with your name on it this week. I'm thinking, oh, but the trouble is they eat plants. And my only big freshwater tank at the moment is full of plants. Well, actually, my molt had been mowing down my hair grass like nothing else, but putting that aside, it's meant to be a planted tank. And Gabs, have you found that the lungfish, obviously they want to eat Vallisneria, but have you found they ignore other types of freshwater plants, stem plants, hygrophillas, bacopas, or do they just, I mean, they'll probably ignore things like Java fern, but they just annihilate everything? It'd be great to hear your experience on that. Okay. Daniel wants me to see an Oscar biotope. Ruby says, nah. Matt says, man, I know you like your saltwater, don't you, mate? Gab says, do it. Ross Dingle, snakehead gudgeons are brilliant, mate. You've never done that. I'm going to convince you to say that you should keep snakehead gudgeons. Get them as a pair or a trio. When I've seen them in North Queensland creeks, and often they're in very small creeks, you wouldn't think they'd be in there. I've usually found them in groups. And on one creek where I caught mine back in the day on a fishing rod, it was on a mate's cane farm just outside of Innisfail. And he has this, what can be called a cane drain, but is effectively a creek that runs through it. There was some baby mangrove jack and stuff in there. But all of a sudden there's this commotion coming up the creek. And there was this stack. You'd have to call it a shoal of large fish coming towards me. And it was all snakehead gudgeons. It was the whole lot was snakehead gudgeons. So they do hang out together. They do jump. Ask me how I know. They are a little bit shy to start with. You got to give them cover, otherwise they will be jumpy. But they're so beautiful. And do yourself a favor, fly up to North Queensland, go fishing around the wet tropics, collect your own. Or even better, there's a guy in Innisfail that every dry season he sells them for $5 each, along with Magurna, the purple spot gudgeons, because they use them for barramundi bait when they go fishing in saltwater, and they call them mud cod. So either don't go buy them for $130 from an aquarium store, fly up, have a nice holiday, collect your own, or go to Innisfail and buy them yourself, pop them in Qantas air freight and bring them home with you. Beautiful. Damn, need no. Of course, I need no shed. 3 flower. It's got 3 cocks. Might but need convincing. A Saratoga, Tan's Aquariums, a Saratoga. Funnily enough, Saratoga wasn't on my radar for a long time. And I wasn't, sooty grunters, yeah, from when I was a kid, but Saratoga's not. But I got to say, having had a Saratoga, it's really cool. I'm not going to say they're the most active fish in the world. They've certainly got their preferred area. They like to have some shelter and then come out into the open water area to explore and then go back again. But there is definitely a prehistoric look about them, which is amazing. And I do recommend keeping a Saratoga. But I don't recommend keeping a Saratoga unless you could keep at least a 10-foot by 4-foot by 3-foot high aquarium. Maybe a 10 by 3 by 3, because they're big. And I think we don't want to kid ourselves buying things like Saratogas and barramundi thinking we can get away with a 6 or an 8-foot tank for too long. But if you can do that, do it, mate, 100%. Oh, lungfish, boring as. Oh, no, I know they sit there a long time, but I don't know. The ones I saw at Lawson's were brilliant. Matt has had the same experience with his copper band. He comes up and eats from my hand, a fish that stands out when they interact. Same experience with my copper band. He comes up. Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah, well, all those fish will eat from your hand. My butterflies, yeah, absolutely. Fish are very adaptable. They're very trainable. Yep. We've got more votes for a Oscar biotope. Snakeheads are awesome. They are awesome. Gabs, can you answer the question about plants, please? Do lungfish nail all plants, or are they selective, and which species? Anyone who's wondering out there, Gabs is very experienced in the world of ectotherms and museum curation, we'll call it, as well as exhibits. Pratty always wants to keep mud skippers, just not sure how to implement the tide changes. That's really easy. The reason I'm pausing is because there's a coral magazine I've got in my shed that it's from 20 years ago, 15 years ago. and it was all about setting up a tidal system for fiddler crabs. And it was varying standpipes and high and low and all the rest of it. But, mate, the thing these days, because I'm thinking about doing a setup for fiddler crabs, a tidal system, is you simply work out what tide difference you want, the high and the low. You buy yourself a couple of dosing pumps or a Camor auto water changer, which has got the dual dosing head pumps, and you set it up in the app to pull water out of the display tank into a reservoir over the course of 6 hours. You can do that all in the app, in which the water goes down, exposes the mud skippers come up, do their thing, and then you program it so the next 6 hours, the water is pumped back into the display tank and the water comes up, and your fiddler crabs, mud skippers, rudder, have their aquatic fun time. And I believe mud skippers, if you can have a low tide at night time, you can encourage breeding. I do believe I was listening to a podcast. It was a Kiwi podcast, and they had a mud skipper guy on. It was absolutely fascinating. And if you can have a low tide at night time, you can get some breeding activity. They lay eggs down their burrow. Yeah, water changer. Come on, look it up. It's about $700. That's the downside. You can probably do it with a couple of cheaper dosing pumps, but, you know, and there are standpipe ways of doing it. If you want me to take a photo and email a picture of that diagram from that coral magazine to you, mate, just let me know. Get my details, email me, and I'll shoot you an email from the coral magazine with the photo of the old standpipe situation. But to be honest with you, auto water changer, dual dosing head, and an app on your phone, bingo, perfect. We don't need to go in this fail. Oh, God, I can't remember the street. So as you are in the main part of town and you go over, you're heading south as if you're going towards where I used to live, which was Tully, or outside of Tully, Mission Beach. You're heading south, you go over the bridge, you go over the river, and which is the Johnson River. And it's immediately after you go over the bridge, you are veering around towards the right-hand side, right-hand bend, which would be the roads going from the east towards the south. And on the outside of that bend is a street that goes down. And in that street, it's just a suburban street, there was a sign on the side of the road saying mud cod for sale, $5 each. And he had them from small purple spot gudgeons up to full size, what do you call them? Snakeheads. But to be honest with you, they're in every creek up there. They're so common. Right. Daniel Witcher, 3599. It's not far from has coral catfish. Might look cool, but seems like it would be a pain. Would need a huge space. LFS not far from has coral. You've never kept coral catfish. We're talking about the Tylotus lineatus, I think. The black ones that do that sort of egalitarian school. I saw those. They're in the Namaka River. And, mate, if you want to see some footage of that, my video last time where I was collecting my fang blennies, there's a school of those in there. An egalitarian school. I believe what they do is which I thought the same thing, and I got some information about them in aquariums. So I kept them in an aquarium, and trust me, don't do it. I thought they'd be schooling, grubbing, and then they would come over. They come over and replace the first one. They come back. They replace the first one. They come back. So in other words, they all get a chance to lead the school in the feeding behaviour. And I thought, how awesome would that be? Mate, they're the dumbest fish in the world. They don't know what glass is. They have no conception of confines. They can't handle that. Even I was putting seafood and stuff down in front of them, and they just it's not worth it, mate. I've been there and thought that. If you want a similar, well, not as tight as that, and you've got a big enough tank, have a think about some goatfish. See you, Matt. Catch you later, buddy. Thanks for coming. They do look crazy, the coral cats, but Yeah, just not worth it. Dave Wilson from Aquagroy. I was talking to Dave, and Dave is going to be heading down and living in New South Wales, I believe. He's looking at potentially retiring in the next few years. Aquarium at Maroochydore has heaps of lungfish. Okay, we've got some information from Gabs here, I think. My wild caught lungfish by fisheries under permit, 1 metre long and hand fed, sat in my hands after 2 weeks. Came up when I clicked my fingers underwater. How cool is that? That's very cool. Where are they now? Where are they now? That'd be awesome. But what plants do they eat, Gab? Quade, I'd love to own a powder blue or a gold rim or a powder brown, but still very worried as I know they love to get white spots, so we'd need convincing to get them and not to get white spot. Do you have a tank that doesn't have white spot? 100%. That's the first question. I do have white spot or velvet, not certain, in my tank, and I manage it. And I do see spots and scratching occasionally. Big feeding and a UV. Big UV. So I guess the question is, number one, do you have... I think the ideal way, if you really are paranoid about white spot, is to buy all your fish from someone like Anything Quarantine, Thomas Tier, up in, is it Brisbane or the Gold Coast? And he's doing the tank transfer method to alleviate or to rid any chance of white spot. I'm not sure about velvet. I'm assuming velvet. In the fish that he's purchasing as a wholesaler, and then he's conditioning them up, and then he's offering them for sale at retail. Obviously, there's a price that goes along with that. But that would be the place to buy that kind of fish from a quarantined source. But then you've got to remember, you've got to quarantine everything else as well in your tank, which includes your coral, anything wet, your water, your coral, your rock, your snails, your urchins, all that stuff. So in my mind, it's either you do everything like that or you don't quarantine and you manage. I've never kept a powder blue. For some reason, I've never kept overseas saltwater fish. Ravencore had a snakehead once along with a jaguar cichlid 20-odd years ago. Yeah, I've seen the Brits. Brits are allowed snakeheads. I guess that's because snakeheads aren't going to survive if they're released or they get loose. Although isn't there a giant snakehead that comes from parts of China that might be more cold tolerant? But anyhow, that's awesome, mate. The snakeheads. Now, the snakehead that Ravencore is talking about is Channa, the true snakehead, the one that's outlawed in America, as opposed to what we're talking about snakeheads, are snakehead gudgeons, which are part of the gudgeon goby family, the Gobiidae, an Australian native fish. Powder blue is a beautiful junior ninja, definitely a white spot made a good one. They're really something special. Showish guppies, haha, wicked. I need to take a trip with the family to camping if I can catch my own. Absolutely, it's a great deal of fun up there. I took my son up there, and it wasn't that expensive bringing fish back on Qantas air freight, and you can get your fish on the same flight, passenger flight that you're going on. In the end, one box was a little bit pricey. I think I came home with 3 styrofoam boxes of different rainbow fishes, blue eyes, and gudgeons. And I think overall I paid around about $240 or something for 3 styrofoam boxes, hundreds of fish. So it really was worth it. And it was a lot of fun too. So guys, you're not telling me what are other fish that you'd keep but need convincing other than, okay, we've got Quade's got his concerns about white spot, which is very valid, mate, to be honest with you. And there is something to be said about having Australian native fish in an Australian reef tank. I kind of like that. Just reading some comments here. Thomas is off the ship. Yep. Ravencore. Yep. Ravencore, have you what is the go with channa species over in England? Are they common channa snakeheads? Are they common in retail aquarium stores? Do people keep them very much over there? I believe in America there's even a betta species or beta called betta chanoides, which has even kind of been legislated against or outlawed just because there's confusion if it's a betta or it's a channa, which is kind of nuts because it's clearly a betta. All right, so Dingo Dave has had a fire eel and a freshwater moray and loads of spiny eels. That's pretty cool, mate. So you're into the eels a bit like me. But what one haven't you kept, buddy? Fire eel, spiny eels. Fire eels, they're those ones that get quite large and very pretty culls on them, aren't they? You don't see those very often. I think Jeff Sensky in the Aquarium Design Group Gallery, I think their central display, peninsula, big cube-looking thing, I think that's the one with fire eels in it, which I think looks awesome. Shosh Guppies, have I had any freshwater rays? That's something else I'm not keen on in tanks. Why aren't you keen on freshwater rays in tanks? I'd be curious to know what your experiences are there. I've never kept freshwater stingrays, and I guess it's because they're very pretty. The patterns are amazing, but they get so big. I think the females can sit around about, 3 foot in diameter disc, or 70 centimeters to 90 centimeters in disc diameter. And the times I see, like, let's use, say, stingray biology, Kevin, predatory fins, the times you see them keeping those breeders, they're in those big square vats with a clear sort of plastic cover on them, bare bottom. There's no biology, there's no enrichment, there's no environment. And yeah, that completely doesn't appeal to me at all. There's this massive concern about stingrays having belly erosion and infections if the substrate's too coarse. Well, you know, it just means you got to choose a substrate correctly. But I don't know. Funnily enough, the stingrays that you can get in saltwater are just smaller. Even a blue spot mask ray, I have kept that. But even those guys can get to 40 centimeters in disc diameter or width, 70 centimeters in length, including the tail. But that's nothing compared to those freshwater ones. Is that the reason why you've never kept them? I'd be really curious to find out what your reason is there, mate. Dingo Dave would like a tire track eel, but maybe, well, do you have another tank? Can you get another tank? Maybe get yourself a rack, like a 6 foot, I don't know, it must be like a 6 foot tank or something, and just have two tiers and have them come together through the common filtration system. Something like that, maybe. Okay, so regarding the channa or the snakeheads in England, I've not seen any in LFS for a long time since he's been into salt water. Okay, I wonder if the reason behind that is because there's been that big trend towards two things. One is aquascaping, freshwater aquariums, and also nano tanks, because let's face it, a lot of our living spaces are getting more congested. That might be the reason why. Nigricans. Acanthurus nigricans. Is that the white cheek? Quaid, is that the white cheek tank? Yeah, it is the white cheek tang, and we do, and Cairns Marine does get that because the powder brown is Japonicus, and we don't get Japonicus. So yeah, I have seen. I remember a long time ago visiting Cairns Marine, and they have the white cheeked tang. Yeah, okay. Shosh guppies, they just get too big and are incredibly sensitive. Yeah, yeah. Funnily enough, the stingrays I've kept, my saltwater stingrays and stingerees, I didn't find them sensitive. I found them extremely greedy and needing to eat a lot. Never had any belly erosion. I never had any issues other than jumping. But they are smaller than those freshwater ones. Yeah, I'm with you, mate. I'm a big believer that you should have a fish that you can keep for the life of the fish. I don't like trading them in because they become pets. And also, they become more beautiful as they get bigger. So why do you want to rotate them out when they're smaller? Absolutely. Dingo Dave, all my eels are in a beautiful planted tank with discus. Ah, there you go. So the eels are in with discus. What temperature are you running at there, mate? I'd be curious because those discus, I know they're getting a lot more amicable to general water conditions, but I think, hardcore discus guys are still pushing up towards that 28 degrees Celsius, aren't they? Now, Tamika Incade. I'm not sure if I've got that right. I'm just going to say Tammy. I'm going to assume you're a female. Hi, Tammy. Hey, so the fish I'm most concerned about keeping would be dead horses because they are so finicky with eating, I believe, and I really don't want a fish to starve to death. Yeah. I'm not going to try and convince you otherwise. Has anybody out there had an experience with seahorses and training them to feed? I guess the big thing is that they're not going to get trained onto dry foods. They're only going to get trained onto frozen mysis. And I guess, Tammy, they have to be trained onto frozen mysis that gets fed to them probably 5 times a day. So I'm with you. I've got a little nano tank, a little Cade Nano, one of those 450 square kind of jobs, all in ones that I'm set to start aquascaping. And I've been trying to, because I keep such big tanks, I've been trying to rack my brains as to what sort of saltwater fish would suit the nano. And it's not easy to be a little bit interesting and different because, most people do a court jester goby or a pistol shrimp goby pair or a mandarin fish or, that old thing with a pair of clownfish. And so one of the ideas I had was not seahorses, but pipefish. And of course, they're a seahorse just laid horizontal. But it's the same thing with you. I couldn't stand the idea of getting a pair of pipefish or a couple of pipefish down for that nano and then, even though I work from home, just not keeping up with that frozen feeding. And I certainly don't have access to copepods and live mysis. So I think that's Tammy, I think that's a very sensible decision that you've made. And me, thumbs up to that. Dingo Dave, no more tanks. Is that because of you or you've been told by the boss? Pratty, one fish I'd need to be convinced to keep is those super expensive angel hybrids. That must be because they're too super expensive. Yeah. And to be honest with you, those tiger pyges, yeah. Have a look at the lemon peel half black hybrids. They're very common. I see them for like $130 odd sometimes on some Melbourne LFS price lists. Have a think about a little display where you could have a trio, get them very small so that they'll exist together, introduce them at the same time, Get a lemon peel or 2 lemon peels and 1 hybrid with a half black, or get a Verlicchio half black, get a lemon peel and get one of those hybrids. And then one of them is going to become the dominant male as it grows up. And you could have a really neat little display. You'll find some coral that they won't pick at, maybe some Montipora. I saw those in Vanuatu as trios, often around rubble zones where the Acropora staghorn would die and fold itself down and have all these pockets underneath, and they pop out through that. So there could be a really cool rubble reef tank setup for a trio of centropides where one of them is that kind of hybrid, that lemon peel hybrid. That could be really cool and won't cost as much. Oh, and on top of that broken down rubble, the Montipora digitata was what was welding it together. Very cool. Shosha Guppies, my little blue spot saltwater ray, perfect size for a monster tank. So you got one. Amazing. Never kept one. And I don't need convincing because one day I will. Is it possible to culture live mysis like the ones you saw in Tassie in your tank? I don't know much about culturing live foods. People are culturing copepods, rotifers, and selling to the aquarium store. I think mysid shrimp are cannibalistic. So I think that's part of the problem in a confined space, is that they just eat each other. But I'm not sure. And require a hell of a lot of time. So if you're talking about those seahorses or pipefish, it's too much work. Way too much work. Yeah, it's a species tank, mate. It's a biotope tank. And I'll see if I can send you some footage. Do I have your email? Send me your email address again if I haven't got it, and I'll find some footage of the lemon peels and those hybrids. They're amazing. They're really pretty fish. 25, 26 degrees, plants suffer, fish seem okay, discus eat heaps. Yeah, I believe there's always a lot of talk about discus fish keeping at 28 degrees Celsius or 30 degrees Celsius, and fish and plants just don't like it. I think I remember, again, I'm a bit of a Jeff Sensky lover boy, but he was trying to find a way, and he sort of stamped the ultimate discus aquascape as having Amazon swords of different sorts because they survived and they worked. Jeremy Rodriguez, angel hybrids are worth it, though, in my opinion. There you go, mate. Spend the money, apparently. Tiger Pieds are expensive, but so beautiful. Tammy's his wife. There you go. Hey, Tammy. Sorry about that. You probably already have live mices in your tank, not just huge numbers. I see them in my tank. Yeah. Mysids? Arthropods? Mysids, I reckon, would get nailed by fish pretty quickly. But it's possible, I guess, if you have very passive fish and plenty of cover. Yeah, blue spot ray, mate. No, years ago, 8 by 3 by 1 foot high tank for a blue spot ray predator setup, and 10 by 4 got too much. Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, footprint. There was a what's the reefer? I think he's German, and he was doing all the Sequest. I can't remember the YouTube channel, German fellow, and he was doing the tank tours, and there was a great tank in one of the European countries, and it was like a floating reef with Anthias and Acropora. Complete under the bottom was sand. You had a couple of blue spot rays in there. Absolutely beautiful. Probably still not big enough, though, because it was only still a 2 foot or 3 foot wide tank. I guess the problem is footprint. Having that 4 foot tank width is the go. Definitely mysids. Very cool. I guess, a tank with plenty of cover and plenty of biology and not too vigorous a fish, then you could do it. But I think if you had a tank that was suitable for seahorses, I don't know. I've never experienced it, but I'm all about trying to keep things easier, I think. Wow. All right. So just to recap, guys, I still get any answers from Gab about my plants. Anyway, we'll find out about that. Thanks very much for joining us tonight. For those of you that are wondering what's going on with my reef plunger, a video coming out in the next day or two regarding that one, because she's up and she's running. I just need to make it a little bit more vibration proof. I'll be doing a video on reacclimating my archer fish from saltwater back to freshwater to get them out of the flow that is happening in the saltwater tank, and they're not happy about that. So if any of you guys are into brackish water fish, the scats, the archers, the monos, jacks, barramundis, and you're thinking about acclimating either way, then that might be of interest to you. And a little video all about searching for gropers in the Nambucca River. So look out for that one too. It's been a very busy few days. Oh, and of course, my macroalgae iwagumi tank, which I'm really, really happy about. Gabs, you did answer me about plants, did you? So far back up there, but I'll find out from you at a different time, I think. Yep. Gil, mate, we're wrapping up. Gils Fishroom. Before we wrap up, Gil, cheers. By the way, my wife said no, and you'll know what I mean by that, which is very disappointing, but it's probably the sensible thing to do. I can't extrapolate on that for everybody else. And Gil, I did also see that you're painting up that metal stand for your big 4,000-litre tank too, so that's coming on very well. Guys, if anyone out there wants some other Australian YouTube content, check out Gils Fishroom. He's a bit of a madman, and he's doing some interesting tank builds from a freshwater perspective. So I'd be really curious to see how your big 12-foot tank's coming along in the next few weeks, mate. Link for Gil. I can't do links on what I'm doing here. What I'm doing here is I'll put a link for Gils Fishroom in the description of this live stream. So, yeah, Gil, plug it there. Plug it there, Gil. What I'm thinking about doing is, rather than doing these live streams via YouTube, which is really limited, you can't put your comments up on the screen, you can't do any of that kind of thing. I'm thinking about using absolute mind blank. What's the live streaming service with the duck in it? Jane! You guys know what I'm talking about, don't you? There's a live streaming platform with a StreamYard. Thank you, Gil. StreamYard. I'm thinking about using StreamYard. I can get some guests on. Gil is one guy that I need to talk to again. We might be joining up and making a bit more of a podcast, a bit more interactive. I'd love to be able to talk to someone else rather than just speaking by myself and addressing what you guys are saying here, which is fantastic. Craig.catfish, how are you, mate? We're on the way out, but I'm really glad that you've rocked up now. Cheers to you. We were talking about what fish we've never kept, never will, and some that we might. Gil, I'll put your link in the description. Over and out from the Australian Aquarist. Cheers to you all, and I shall see you maybe via StreamYard, maybe not. We might get there. Next Sunday, Australian Daylight Savings Time, 7 p.m. Over and out. Thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for coming along in your interaction. Good night.